2020 was the year of the downward spiral, and I pray to Dave Grohl that 2021 will take us all out. No matter who you are or what you believe, except for pedophiles, fuck them, you deserve to have a 2021 that takes this year and wipes its ass with it. And I'm hopeful next year can actually be like that. Like I said at the beginning of the video, some big changes are on the horizon with me, and I don't think I've ever felt this excited for such things.
We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the... Oh yeah, this is the worst songs video. The majority of you guys wanted to come out first. Alright, let's do it. Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercise my first amendment rights vlog style. Happy New Year to you all. Outside of how awesome of a year for music it was, we all hated 2020, right? That's pretty much objective fact at this point, there's no disputing it. I literally said in last year's video that 2020 was the worst year of my life.
Worst year of your life so far.
A lot of people walked out of 2020 feeling dejected and not feeling incredibly hopeful about the next year. But as understandable as that was, I opted to walk into 2021 with a much more positive attitude, especially considering all that I knew was in store for me. Hitting 4,000 subscribers was one cool thing that happened. 2021 wasn't my most productive year as far as videos go, but the few videos I did put out, I was incredibly proud of and consider them some of my best work to date. I said at the end of both of my year-end videos last year, before playing 1921 by The Who in the outro, that this year was going to have a fair bit of changes going on. The most prominent change being that I moved. I have my own apartment out in Worcester County. And while I'm not sure how specific I want to be about it, I'm looking forward to the adventures I'll be having out here. Getting the COVID vaccine was also a high point, considering how upset I was at all the roadblocks brought on by the pandemic. I felt like I was seeing a light at the end of a tunnel, and that good things were on the horizon, especially because concerts came back. Given that this was the longest break between concerts I'd endured since in between when I saw AC/DC in the summer of 2009 and the Slayer Megadeth co-headline in the summer of 2010, it was such an incredible feeling being able to experience live music again after all this time. 2021 was by no means perfect, but if I'm being honest, this has been the best year I've had in such a long time. So why am I making the worst songs video first? You'd think given how great this year's been to me, I'd want to start with best songs like I usually do, right? Well, other than the fact that the majority of people that voted in the poll I put up on my community tab last month voted in favor of this video coming out first, and the fact that the worst songs videos always perform better than the best songs videos, and having a big intro like I did last year would only be seen by more people if it's part of the worst songs video, we aren't exactly 100% out of the woods yet. The fact that 2020 being such a terrible year for all of us is still lingering in our minds to this day is pretty damn telling of that. Obviously, the pandemic is still a thing for the most part, and areas like mine ended up reinstating the mask mandate, which is annoying to say the least. Those Rage Against the Machine and My Chemical Romance reunion tours also ended up being postponed a second time. They're much too big to cancel, so don't worry. If you want to know the extent of how I feel about all this, there's a video from Freedom Tunes that puts it into perspective.
Is there a vaccine?
Yep. Here you go, Jason.
Finally!
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Jason, what are you doing?
Seriously?
Jason, we have to wait until everyone else is vaccinated.
That's impossible!
Okay, well, at least until there's a second round of booster shots.
How about now?
Third round. Fourth round. 0 new cases.
I could rant all day about how I feel about the mask mandate, but not only is that what you clicked on this video for, but knowing how much people on the internet love grasping at straws, I have a feeling it'd get me accused of being anti-mask, even though that's not the case. The point I'm trying to make is, there's still some sour left over from 2020, and before we flip the calendar over to 2022, it's time to get at least a little of that sour out of my system by ripping off every music reviewer ever with my yearly pop music evaluation, focusing on the songs I resented hearing. Since a worrying amount of people seem to need the rules for this list explained to them, the only criteria a song has to meet to be on this list, apart from my personal dislike of the song, is for it to be on the Billboard Year-End chart for this year. Let me say those words again for the listening impaired. The Billboard Year-End chart for this year. If you're wondering why a particular song might be included or not included, chances are it's because I either haven't heard it, don't really have an opinion on it, or didn't have room for it. But more importantly, I understand some people in the music review community have their own criteria, such as the song being released in the calendar year or even the chart year, don't ask me to explain how that works, or the song needing to have charted at a certain position or higher, or chart for a certain number of weeks. However, I'm a lot more lenient, since my only criteria is that it has to be on the year-end chart, which is linked in the description if you want to verify that the song in question is indeed there. So now that that's out of the way...
Shades, aren't you gonna give me a plug for that new channel I was forced to create?
Oh yeah, that was also a thing that happened. Please subscribe to Damien Skyfire's new channel as well. God, you're fucking needy.
Yeah, you forgot the not at the beginning.
Right, whatever. I'd like to get to my list now, please.
All hail the Sky Toller, biatch!
Number 10. I'll give this song credit for being short and having a decent beat, save for this weird thing that sounds like an awkward bend on a guitar string, well, kinda like this part in Tears Don't Fall by Bullet for My Valentine. Plus, the title of the song makes me think of Sandy Cheeks. But outside of that, Astronaut in the Ocean is just a slew of off-the-wall randomness that makes about as much sense as NFTs. There are parts where the lyrics sound like sad boy music, but then there are parts that sound like brag rap, and I'm not sure those two mix, unless you're some weirdo that brags about being depressed.
What you know about rolling down in the deep?
I don't know, ask Adele. I have no idea why that song is even being referenced. It has nothing to do with being depressed. Pissed off, yeah, but not depressed. Really, so many of the lines in the song sound like non sequiturs. One moment he's talking about how
I believe in G-O-D.
Which, good for you, and how he doesn't like thoughts, I guess. Then he decides to talk about feeling mentally drained, then basically spends the rest of the verses brag rapping. The spitting is pretty impressive, but the way everything is packaged makes this feel like Bipolar ADHD the song. This is also the part of the video where I give my obligatory plug for Sean from Diamond X Studios' Worst Songs list, where he has yet another big cameo fest I was a part of, since I have no idea what percentage of my audience watches him at all. This year he had everybody write parody lines of Astronaut in the Ocean to drive the point home about how random and incoherent the lyrics are. On the whole, I'd say I had way more fun watching that than listening to the original song, which should really say something. I won't give away what I did for my part, all I'll say is that it stands out. Number 9. I'd heard of AJR, an indie pop rock band comprised of three brothers, Adam, Jack, and Ryan, met previously through the band being a recurring subject of ridicule by the likes of ARTV, Rocked, and Crash Thompson. So when I saw that this band had a big song this year, I was curious what I would think. On first listen, it sounded kind of like the indie stuff I used to hear on my brother's MLB 2K games, stuff I would have found tolerable in my high school years, stuff I would normally advocate for as someone wanting indie groups to strike some gold in the pop landscape. So what's the problem? It sounds weak and kinda derpy. In particular, I always found the parts really badly executed. It seems like something that should sound much bigger than it does. The mixing sounds underdeveloped, particularly in the chorus with the keyboard hits on beats 2 and 4, and the way Jack says everybody gives a vibe that makes me think of those two foreign guys that have been living in the US just long enough to sound American.
Way awesome. I myself drank like 5 liters of beer. Any more and I would have ended up in hospital, man.
Oh, you said it, friend. But I wanted to stay, because I almost had sex on this girl.
That comparison especially sounds the case with this line. Whatever? Whatever what? The lyrics in the verses sound like they're on the verge of something, but overall I have barely idea what's going on, which that's the thing that ended up putting the song above Astronaut in the Ocean on here. The song seems to be about growing up and entering adult life, but I don't feel like the lyrics focus enough on the bang the dude's wanting to go out on. When he goes, it just reeks of desperation to fill in lyrical gaps. Either that or he took too much inspiration from Obla Di Obla Da by the Beatles. I've tried making a case for Imagine Dragons a number of times in my Best Songs videos, which is something I've always been in the minority around here regarding, seeing as how the popular opinion is that the band is nothing but commercial core pop garbage and a lame excuse for a rock band. With AJR, I see exactly that. Not the rock part, the other part. Bang just sounds bland and inoffensive to the core. It has the presence of an awkward nerd that fades into the background of a scenery and is one of the wimpiest songs I've ever heard. Number 8. After previously starring on a Disney Plus spinoff, High School Musical, the series, with a title that sounds like a knockoff of Link, The Boy, The Movie, The Trailer, The Poop by the impeccable Jimmy Davis, Olivia Rodrigo is this year's big breakout pop darling. The year basically started with Driver's License flooding the airwaves, and my reaction to it was that it sounded like a song a middle schooler would write for their school's talent show, kinda like that Lost Boy song from a few years ago. It sounded immature and had a lot of forced-sounding car and driving references like an ad for a driver's ed program, but I really didn't want to talk about it on this list since it at least sounded like something up my alley given that I've praised piano ballads a number of times in the past. I did see potential in Olivia, and you'll understand that more when we get to the best songs list. So I checked out her album Sour and dug a very small number of tracks, but the rest of the album was basically a bunch of repackaging of Driver's License, bunch of breakup piano ballads, and Traitor is no exception. I'd like to give some benefit of the doubt that this is just a teen girl being a teen girl, but the immaturity of these lyrics just give me uncomfortable flashbacks of dumb relationship drama, the likes of which were the inspiration for much of her album. I won't go into detail on that because you likely don't care, and neither do I. I've always found it really annoying when someone in a relationship gets upset at their partner talking with someone of the opposite sex. Oftentimes it's a case of a person really needing to cool their paranoia and not be quick to assume the worst in someone. But this is a high school relationship we're talking about here, and from my experience having been in high school, those relationships aren't exactly designed to last incredibly long. There are exceptions, sure. The two people that were the runner-up for class couple my year actually got married recently, but most of these things come and go. And high school is a time where a lot of people are just playing around, talking with a bunch of different people, and exploring different relationships. I've always found it confusing and kinda dumb, but that's just the nature of the beast. Olivia even acknowledges that the guy didn't cheat on her, but somehow he's a traitor? I get that it's pretty sus that he's moved on quickly, but for as much as I've made my contempt for rebound relationships known on here, it's important to remember that everyone is different with how they handle a breakup and when they move on, so this whole thing sounds really inconsequential. This isn't to say that she isn't allowed to feel bad about her relationship ending. She can feel however she wants, and it's not my place to tell anyone that's wrong. But that doesn't really excuse how mopey this song is, and how much it reeks of shit from my middle and high school years that I really don't miss hearing about. Number 7. I had a feeling when I talked about WAP last year that I'd get some blowback for it, but I guess I was fair enough towards it that didn't end up happening. Thought Shit, though, great title there, is basically all the elements of WAP I thought were cringe combined with the main critique I had towards Savage. It's more of the in-your-face, sexual, tough girl stuff that's become synonymous with Megan Thee Stallion. She was definitely the better of the two in WAP, but I honestly think this has a worse performance. WAP at least had some chuckle-worthy lines. What does this song have?
Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, hands on my knees.
Yeah, that's way more upfront. There is one part of the song that did catch my attention.
Acting like you winning if you think about it actually. Are they supporting you or really just attacking me? I don't give a fuck about a blog trying to bash me. I'm the shit per the Recording Academy.
So now it's another one of those songs with the whole haters make me famous shtick, along with the ever so humorous contradiction of saying you don't care about what blogs, which I guess would include people like me, say, even though you clearly do care enough to acknowledge them. Very akin to what I've complained about Taylor Swift doing before, but at least she didn't say anything along the lines of I don't care or make any appeal to popularity arguments. I suppose I could talk about the part in the third verse where she makes a Hot Topic reference and says,
I need a real headbang on some rock shit.
Oh, but what would a real headbanger be doing at Hot Topic where all the poser scene kid plebs go for their apparel? I get what she's trying to say, but why the rock comparison? It really comes out of left field. You can tell we're at the point in the list where I don't really have enough to say about the song to justify it being higher, but seeing it having enough going for it to not be much lower than it is. But don't you worry, we're not done with Megan yet. As much as I try on my list to have one song per artist, it's never been an official rule for this series, so strap in. Number 6. I saw Lonely by Justin Bieber get talked about in some Worst Songs videos last year. It was one of those songs that would have made for a good contender for my list had it made the year-end chart, and I wasn't sure it was going to be one of those carryover hits, especially after the hype for Yummy died down. But I was pleasantly surprised to see I was wrong in my prediction, so I can talk about it here. And if this confuses anybody, this is why I explained my criteria at the beginning of the video, so I hope you were listening carefully, because scenarios like this are why I need to be as annoying about it as I am. Lonely is a song that tries to sound deep and sincere, but it ends up sounding kind of boring. The keyboards sound really simplistic, and the vocals sound dreary and somewhat rushed. But of course, the cherry on top is the way Bieber says the word lonely. It sounds like a mix of a yodeler, a donkey, and when you're doing a long sigh and your voice does a little flip like weirdly enough, that's the sound I make when I hear that part of the song. The other really noteworthy thing about this song is how it's kind of a look back at Bieber's past and his feelings about being famous. It's easy to look at a guy like Justin Bieber and remember him as being an annoying, easy target kid that we all shat on 10 years ago. He even alludes to making some unhealthy and really shitty choices, like when he spat on his fans, drag raced, and even that time he pissed in a mop bucket. Remember that shit? But you never stop to think about the person behind the action, especially years into the future when they may have grown to some degree. You're probably asking yourself at this point,
Shades, you're someone who's known for being heavily critical of cancel culture. Don't you feel at all sorry for the guy?
I guess. I more so pity Bieber than anything. I recognize that when you're a celebrity, your life and all your actions are pretty much viewed under a microscope. The Britney Spears episode of South Park does a good job driving this point home. Thus is why Stan and Kyle both feel bad for all that she's been through and try to help her escape from all the people shoving cameras in her half face. It's also kind of a reason why I'm glad I'm not super huge on YouTube, especially knowing how obnoxious T channels can get. This is probably leading you to now ask why the song is on the worst list. And to tell you the truth, with how monotonous the vocals are, it still comes off like somewhat of a pity party. It really doesn't do a good job of sounding heartfelt. It's the musical equivalent of an apology video or post where the person is insulting himself as a means of trying to show regret for his actions, telling his life story as a means of offering some kind of explanation of why he is the way he is, maybe include a mention of a mental disorder or two, and just dancing around the subject at hand, all culminating in a mediocre apology, if you can even call it that. And I'm just unsure if Bieber is really selling me. I'm sure there's a part of him that does recognize how destructive his patterns of behavior were over the years and regrets a lot of the actions he chose, but I don't see Lonely as being a good effort at addressing that. Like, at all.
Number 5.
So remember in 2017 when a writer's credit was given to Right Said Fred on Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift because the song had a similar feel and rhythm to I'm Too Sexy? Well, with Way Too Sexy, with that cute number 2, Drake upped the ante. Unlike in the Taylor Swift song, he actually sampled the original I'm Too Sexy in both the intro and the chorus, as well as basically jacking the lyrical structure in the chorus, saying what he's too sexy for. I get liking the song or liking its novelty, but unless you're doing a cover of the song, does it really need to be repurposed this shamelessly? Kinda like what I said about Tootsie Slide last year, this song feels to me like more of Drake trying to play along with the meme status he's attained in the past, but he ends up forcing it. And that's not something you want to do with memes. The best memes, in my opinion, come naturally without having to try too hard. But that's the impression I get whenever I see Drake play up the sexy shit, playing that double neck guitar, wearing those shades like he's trying to be me, and trying to match the ironic corniness of the original I'm Too Sexy. It's the equivalent of SpongeBob running the ripped pants bit into the ground to the point where no one likes it anymore. And it's not like the guest verses from Future and Young Thug do much to help that. The both of their parts are really boring, even by Drake's standards. Future sounds really mumbly, and Young Thug's verse is basically an I got money brag that doesn't sound like it belongs on a song where the people are saying they're too sexy for cash. And above all that, the song is basically 2/3 Future, and it's like, whose song is this again? At the end of it all, as much as I've made my contempt for the songs they came from known, Drake is showing that he isn't able to recapture the lightning in a bottle he was able to create with the memes that spawned from songs like Hotline Bling and God's Plan. He seems to understand that memes play a big role in a song's popularity these days, but forgets that when he filmed the music video for Hotline Bling, he wasn't trying to come out with something that would become an immensely popular meme source. I recently started watching the music reviewer and commentator Mike the Snare, and he actually has a video on this very topic that I'd recommend checking out if you want to learn more about how memes work in music. Drake, however, is going further down the spiral of self-parody, and the more songs I hear from him, the sadder it gets.
Number 4.
It ain't a RanterInShades worst songs video without an obligatory Cardi B segment. I find that every time I talk about her in this series, the songs get gradually worse in some way or another. Not only does Up defecate over a beloved Pixar movie with its title, but it takes all the problems I had with Bodak Yellow and Money, maybe a dash of WAP for good measure, and tacks on probably the most repetitive chorus I've ever heard in a rap song.
If it's up, then 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 it's up. Then it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's up. Then it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's up.
Enough of this obvious exaggeration, I won't drag it on. Regardless, not including in the verses, the word up is uttered a grand total of 41 times. If it's up, then it's up. Nice A equals A logic there. And then she says it's stuck. Up and stuck essentially refers to something that stays at the top, i.e. Cardi's career, thanks a lot, a bank account that immediately gets reimbursed every time you spend any money, or that scene in American Pie Naked Mile where the guys take those boner pills, which I really don't like remembering. Equally as unsettling is this line.
That bitch back, breath smell like horse sex.
That doesn't imply what I think it does it? And while I was writing this part of the script, I was straining to think of a good BoJack Horseman reference to make there, but then I realized, does this even deserve that? Either way, the thing that makes up the worst Cardi B song I've talked about thus far is that with the chorus like this, it just doesn't sound like she's even trying. I get that repetition is a good way to create a memorable hook, but this is lazy. Obviously, this is Cardi B and I don't really expect much, but I really hate being both bored and annoyed simultaneously at a song. Number 3. This is probably the most boomerish song I've ever talked about in this series. On the surface, Fancy Like sounds like one of those typical corny man trying to be lovey-dovey country songs with a guitar riff that sounds like a small 80s style hard rock band that plays every Saturday at the local bar. But then you take notice of the hip-hop sounding beat and the manner in which Walker Hayes talks, especially when he says words like bougie, and it gives off a vibe of an old man trying to sound like he's hip to what the youth is into these days. And that's also kind of embarrassing considering this is yet another song that had its climb to the top thanks to our dear compadre TikTok and people doing stupid dances to it. The song is also a haven for product placement. Walker Hayes makes a number of name drops from Wendy's to Applebee's to mentioning a Vespa, and Applebee's is apparently an upgrade from Wendy's. I mean, I guess he's not wrong there, and I say this as someone whose favorite fast food chain is Wendy's, but as much as it's totally valid to go on a date to the place, it's not exactly the massive step up he thinks it is, and it ends up sounding like an extended commercial for Applebee's. And wouldn't you know, it was actually used in fucking Applebee's commercials. It's kind of like the stereotype of indie pop rock songs being designed for use in commercials, only here the song is actually self-aware about it. That's really scary. And with the whole theme of not needing to do all those fancy rich people things and just keeping things simple and tacky, especially in the bridge, this song wants to be Thrift Shop by Macklemore so badly. While it's true that's a song about getting creative with inexpensive material, the big difference between the two is that Thrift Shop has an ironic comedic edge to it, while Fancy Like doesn't have that kind of charm. And Macklemore at least doesn't make me want to gag with the mention of, "She wanna dip me like them fries in a Frosty." First of all, who the fuck does that? That's gross. And second of all, that's supposed to be a sexual innuendo. Again, that's gross. This song is so dorky. I pity anyone that actually thinks this is cool. There's nothing clever, there's nothing quirky. This is the lamest country song I've ever heard. At least with Body Like a Back Road, I can give a genuine snort at how try-hard and stereotypically redneck those lyrics are. But Fancy Like takes the cake in overall lameness. Walk on home, boy. Get it? Because his name's Walker. Number 2. Want to hear something even lazier than Up? I just don't even. I'm at such a loss for words. Listening to that chorus just fried me in a way I don't think any song I've talked about in the Worst Song series has done. Body doesn't offend me on a principle level so much as it does on a lyrical level. It literally sounds like Megan is actually saying yada yada yada, and to be honest, I doubt that's really much of a difference. Appreciate the unintentional Seinfeld reference though. For fuck's sake, there's a verified annotation on Genius from Megan herself on this chorus that says, "I came up with the body yada 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 by twerking in the mirror in the living room." That basically says it all right there. The verses are basically more of Megan bragging about how hot she is, which, I don't know, not my thing personally, but if you're into it, good for you. Nothing really jumps out at me about the verses, since it's nothing I haven't heard before from her, but this line here did raise an eyebrow. All my features been getting these niggas through the quarantine. I can tell 10 years from now when people hear that, they'll think,
yep, this was the early 2020s.
It's way more blatant of a COVID reference than songs that came out last year like Stuck With You. I really don't know what else to say about the song. It sucks and you know it sucks. I doubt even the staunchest of apologists of Megan's would be able to defend Body. Now you're probably wondering why the song is only at number 2. Well, as grating as Body is, there's another Megan Thee Stallion song that I hate just a little more. But before we get to my number 1, which I'm sure you guys watching have already predicted, let's go over the dishonorable mention for this year that didn't make the year-end chart, or else I'd have included it on the main list. This would be Girls Want Girls by Drake featuring I would have had so much fun with this song had it made the year-end chart, and maybe there's a chance this will be a carryover to next year. One thing I've noticed Drake doing a lot on his songs is trying to have a particular line be like a catchphrase of sorts that the listener associates with the song. I like calling these t-shirt lines because pop punk and emo bands like doing the same thing where they print this big line on their merch, and I can tell that's what Drake is going for when saying something as dumb as, "Say that you a lesbian, girl, me too. That just means she likes what I like." How much of a tryhard do you need to be to say something like that to a woman that isn't even attracted to men, thinking she'll find it endearing? If anything, she'll view you the same way straight or even bi women view you, as an annoying, douchey straight guy. You really think a guy like me, for example, could get away with saying,
"Bro, I'm so straight, I'm basically a lesbian"?
Ew! Like, I'm not even a lesbian, but that's fucking gross.
You see? Girls don't like that. I also feel like the song gives off some incel vibes. Drake just sounds so deflated at the idea that a girl would rather be with another girl than a certified lover boy like himself, and you can kind of hear that in the chorus when he starts being exceedingly mumbly.
Girls want girls where I'm from, oh yeah, girls want girls.
And people wonder why I don't like mumble rap. Then in Lil Baby's verse, he really amps up the desperation.
I can't wait to get out work to go and see you. Please bring your girlfriend along with you. Y'all been on my mind too much, like what the fuck is wrong with me? She said it's something about the way a girl just makes her feel. Whatever you been dreaming about, I swear to make it real. Just run around the town with me, then come lay down.
And that's aided by how fast he goes and how much distortion and autotune he has on his vocals, in a way that kind of symbolizes the kind of guy that doesn't want to take the rejection and is being super annoying about it. He does say "my girl got a girlfriend" at the beginning of his verse, so this could be a case like in Friends where Ross's ex-wife comes out as lesbian and ends the marriage while being pregnant with their child. Maybe she was bi from the start, who knows? But if that isn't the case, I need to ask again why you're wasting your time with two women, mind you, that aren't interested in having a threesome with a man. They don't like dick. I'm seeing some parallels between this song and She Has a Girlfriend Now by Real Big Fish, which is actually my favorite song of theirs. There's a part in that song where Aaron Barrett says, yeah, that's meant to sound desperate as fuck, but the key difference between the two songs is that Real Big Fish are clearly hamming it up, as only a 90s ska band can, and aren't taking themselves seriously at all. I don't think we can say that about Drake, and especially not Lil Baby. Either way, Girls Want Girls is really obnoxious and pathetic and is the worst Drake song I've ever heard. Lord help me if this does carry over. Also, remember last year when All I Want for Christmas Is You somehow made the year-end chart? Well, it happened again this year, this time at number 78. But not only that, its close friend Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by a song from 1958, older than the Mariah Carey song, also managed to make it on at number 92. Again, I don't know if this is so much indicative of this year lacking in material for the year-end chart to the point where they resort to throwing on Christmas songs, or that people buy and stream this stuff this goddamn much that they end up qualifying for inclusion. Either way, it's sad. And number one...
You're gonna talk about the glorious, fully intended cringe that is the glorious LARP by Flattened Earth?
What? Who?
Oh, here, let me send you the link.
Presenting top game shows, conjured up the plan. We'll march with flags and bear spray into the promised land. What the hell is that?
I'll check the year-end chart. Okay, it's not on the year-end chart, thank goodness. But still, why would you do this to me?
Well, that's what you get for not talking about John Schaefer in your cancel culture video.
Oh, go back to catching the box ghost, you motherfucker.
Gladly. In fact, I'm going on a crusade. I'm gonna kill some ghosts! I'm swole!
Sometimes I don't even know with blue mages.
Stack that bitch up, mate.
This is perhaps the shittiest beat I've ever talked about in this series. I doubt it tops, but those fucking baby sounds really test my patience. I already hate kids, so imagine how I must feel hearing these stupid baby noises layered on top of a trap beat and some creepy piano. I don't normally talk about the producers in these videos, but for this, I actually looked up who the producer was just so I could say this. DA got that dope. Fuck you for making this. Much like with Way Too Sexy, Crybaby also has this weird balance problem between domain artist and de guest artist. Yes, I'm gonna meme the shit out of this. Not only is it a fun and flexible meme, but it's how I choose to cope. The majority of this song is taken up by
Wow, they have it. Da baby.
AKA that guy that got put on to cancel culture chopping block for a poorly executed AIDS joke and something about sucking dick. I don't know if I find it funny or dumb that DaBaby is on a song called Cry Baby, because it makes me think of that one time him and Lil Baby did a song together called Baby that I'm guessing was just for the novelty.
What is this? A crossover episode?
You babies are so dumb. I'm surprised you know which end of the bottle to suck.
I really don't like DaBaby's voice and how sloppy he sounds. He's basically playing a sleazy deadbeat dad, and I really do not like listening to him, particularly when he names off a bunch of women that I'm guessing is his repertoire of partners.
Key, Jazz, Kiera, Megan, go, Lisa, Ashley, Sierra, Sarah.
Who do you think you are, Lou Bega? And Megan's verse and chorus seem to be showing the other side of the situation, and it really shows how dysfunctional their dynamic is. This should really paint a picture.
Keep me a freak, who the flavor of the week. If I make up the rules, then I don't think cheating. Jordan, Tommy, Timothy, Daniel, Milo, Jonathan, bring in Sarah.
Jonathan is actually DaBaby's real name. So let me get this straight. You're thinking of having a little get back together with your deadbeat ex-husband and having one of his new girls over for a threesome? I'm sorry, your situation is absolutely fucked. The cherry on top is Megan's chorus, where she acts so proud of kicking that loser to curb. Not that I want to stick up for DaBaby at all or rationalize how much of a sleazebag he is in this story, but with how trashy she is, it's not like I find her to be much better. They're both horrible, both in the story and on the song. And it's also pretty sad and telling that the top 2 spots on this list are both from Megan Thee Stallion. This should have also happened in 2016. Work did not deserve to rank higher than Me Too. It's pretty apparent I do not like Megan Thee Stallion. Is she the worst artist I've spoken about on my channel? No. But both Crybaby as well as Body are the personification of why we need to really push to make pop music great again. If there's anything I've learned from watching Lemon, that's me, is that sometimes it's necessary to experience a downward spiral in order to come out a stronger person. That's what these past 2 years represented for me. As much as I've highlighted some annoying pop songs that were popular this year, like I said in the intro to this video, 2021 was a great year for me, and those songs could never take away from that. This year was definitely the payoff I needed after 2020. But for anyone whose 2021 was basically 2020 Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, you have my well wishes. 2022 is going to have more payoff. For everyone. Except for pedophiles, fuck them. I do have a little something in the vein of this planned for next year, so be on the lookout for when I put it out. Other than that, thank you very much for watching this video. Stay tuned for the top 10 best songs of 2021 coming up next. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22.